Hello everyone, I am Professor Nayan Asne, Department of Information Technology, Parvatibai Genba Mose College of Engineering, Wagholi, Pune. So in this session, we'll start with the task in SCM process, that is Software Configuration Management Process. So first understand what is the SCM. So Software Configuration Management Process consists of series of tasks to monitor and control the changes which has been occurred in a software development. So there is a main objective of this task we have listed in 4 different ways. So the first objective to perform the SCM process is to identify the individual elements that can identify the software configuration completely. So we have to identify the small elements, the individual elements that makes the software configuration process. Second is to manage the change which is taking place in that individual elements, or we can say the individual atoms. We need to manage the change which is continuously over happening in that particular small units. The third one is to handle the different versions or the releases of the product. So we need to also handle the different version. Each version is greater than the previous, or each version is having some changes from the previous version. So we need to manage that different versions and different releases of the product. And the fourth one is to maintain the quality of the software which is under construction from periodic time, or we can say time to time. We need to manage the quality of the software as we are changing the software. So there is always need to manage the quality of the software while it is changing, while it is versioning, or we can say while it is upgrading. So we have the software configuration management process layer. So there are 5 layers in software configuration management. So the first one, we can say the SCIs is there. SCI is nothing but the software configuration items which is collectively called as software configuration. So the small items are reside under the software configuration. Then the first layer comes with the identification of that items. Second is your change control. Third is your versioning, or we can say the version control. Fourth is your configuration audits, and the fifth one is the reporting. So these are the 5 layers of software configuration management process. So we need to go with the tasks which are performed in a SCM process. The first task is your configuration identification. Second is your baseline. Third is your change control. Fourth is configuration status auditing. And the fifth one is configuration audits and the reviews. So the first one is configuration identification. So configuration identification is the method of determining the scope of the software of the system. With help of this step, you can manage and control something even if you don't know about the things. So it is just a description that contains the computer software configuration atoms. So it is description. The configuration identification is nothing but the description about the software configuration items of your computer. We can also add project identifier and a versioning information, or we can say the version information. So this all information is collected in a configuration identification. So which items are changed, which SCIs are changed, what is the project, which is the project, and which version is changing. So that information is collected in configuration identification. So it generally determines the scope of the system. So the next one is the baseline. As the name suggests, the baseline is nothing but the basic version which is accepted by the customers, or which is the baseline is nothing but the version, or we can say the product, the basic product which is accepted by the stakeholders or by the end users. So before going with the baselines, first there are some activities which are carried out in configuration identification. We'll see first that activities. So the activities during the configuration identification process are given here. So first we'll see one by one. The first one is to identification of the configuration atoms, such as like your source code models, your test cases, and the requirement specification. Then it comes with the identification of CSCI, that is a computer software configuration atoms, in your SCM repository. Repository is again the database where all the SCIs are stored by using the object oriented approach. The third one is the process start with the basic object with which are grouped together in an aggregate object. So the details of why, what, why and when and by whom it is changed, so that are maintained. Every object has its own feature that identify its name that is explicit to all other objects, so that features are found, and the list of all the resources which are required such as document, the files and tools are prepared. So these activities are carried out in software configuration identification, or we can say the configuration identification process. Suppose example here is given. Instead of naming the file as a file login.php, it should be named as login underscore v1.2. That is your we can say that is your version. For this is for your version and change control. So you can know the first v1 is the basic version of your file, then whereas v1.2 stands for the version number 2. So this is v1.2.php and v1.2. will stand for the version number of the file. So this is the process generally we use in our program also. If you are coding or if you are performing a program, then you are giving the naming conventions such as, suppose if there is a 4 functions in your program: addition, subtraction, multiplication and the division for the matrix, such as take the example of the matrix program. So in a first program you are performing the addition, so you will give like the name of matrix 1. Then if the second function is performed, then for the second version, for the second that particular module, you will give like such as the name for that program like matrix 2. Like if you're going for the multiplication, then matrix 3, and fourth one is your division, so matrix 5. So what these things are? These things are nothing but the versions of that program. So first program, that matrix 1 will contain only the addition, the matrix 2 will contain addition and subtraction process or addition and subtraction module in that program. The third one contains addition, subtraction and multiplication, and the fourth one will contain addition, subtraction, multiplication and the division. So that is your version control for using, that is given for your version control or for the modification that you have done in your program. And the baseline is nothing but what? The first one, matrix 1. Matrix 1 program is your base program. Okay. So this is the example for the identification control. So let's move with the baseline. So baseline is nothing but the formally accepted version of the software configuration items. That means suppose if you take the example of WhatsApp or Facebook, so the first Facebook wherever it was developed, so the first Facebook, the base product was accepted by the user. So that is your baseline, the basic things, the basic requirement which has been performed by that particular application, and that version and that application is accepted by the stakeholders or the end user, then that thing is known as the baseline. So baseline is a formally accepted version of your software configuration item. It is designed and fixed at the specific time, which is while conducting the SCM process. So it can be changed throughout the final change control procedure. Laterly, when the versions are updated, the things are changing, the application gets changed. But what basic version of the WhatsApp is to chat, to send the messages, for seeing the status, for saying the call. And other versions like for when you are muting someone, when you are making a group, when you are eliminating, or when you are eliminating someone to view your status or your last online time. So that is nothing but your next version, that comes under the next version. Okay, so but what the baseline product is? To chat, to make a video calls, to put a status. This is the formally accepted version by all the users, and other external features, or we can say the external functionality which is adding on laterally, so that changes up to the when you are handling that software finally. So the baseline is nothing but formally accepted version of your software configuration items. So what activities are carried out in a baseline? So facilitate the construction of various version of application. That means continually improve your application with different version. So new features can be introduced in your application. Then second one is designing and determining the mechanisms for managing the various version of your software product. Third one is The functional baseline correspond to viewing the system requirements widely. Used baseline include the functional, the developmental, and the product baseline. In simple words, the baseline means ready for release. So that activities has been carried on in a baseline. So the next one is change control. So we need to manage the quality while you are changing the versions, or while you are changing the software. While the change has been occurred in a software, you need to maintain the quality and consistency of your software product. So that is managed under your change control. So it is a request that is submitted to the configuration manager. Whenever there is a change in a software, the request is submitted to the software configuration management. So what activities are carried out in a change control? The first one is control ad hoc change to build the stable software development environment. Second is changes are committed to the repository. The third one is the request will be checked based upon the technical merit, depend upon the possible side effects on the product, and overall impact on your configuration objects. So if all things are fine, then we will change the version, or we'll make a changes which is given by the developers, or which is given by the stakeholders indirectly. So it manage the changes and making configuration items available during the software life cycle. So change control will overall responsible for maintaining the quality consistency of your software products. It will totally depend upon eliminating the side effects on your, or we can say the impacts, the wrong impacts on your configuration objects or your software. So the next one is your configuration status accounting. That means configuration status accounting track each and every release during your SCM process. So this involves tracking what each version has and the changes that leads to the version. So it always maintain a accounting report. So what the version was previously and what changes has been applied that for that particular version, and what new version is introduced from the previous one. So what activities are carried out? So keeping record of all the changes that has been made for the previous baseline to reach a new baseline, that is for the previous module, what changes has been made with the previous modules, and what new module we have get after the changes. So identify all the items, define the software configuration, so monitor the status of the changes request, complete the listing of all the changes since the last baseline, then allow the tracking for the progress to the next baseline. So it allows also to check the previous release or the version to be extracted for the testing, or whether the model is running well after the changes or not. So this all is maintained under the status accounting report, that is called as the configuration status accounting. The next one is configuration audits and review. So after software configuration audits are verified that all the software products satisfy the baseline needs, means after making the changes, the software should not act like the external, or it should be always satisfy whatever the basic needs are there, and then the versions need to be updated. So configuration audits and review will check and verify whether the software satisfy its baseline needs or not. It ensures that what is built and what is delivered. So what activities are carried out? So first one is configuration audit. It's conducted by the auditors by checking that defining the process are been followed and ensure that SCM goals are satisfied or not. Second is to configuration control standards, whether the process has been maintained with the configuration control standards that are accounting and reporting, that is making the change. Then we have SCM audits to ensure that traceability is maintained during the process. It also ensures that the made in baseline is correctly reported, the configuration status is correctly reported or not, and validation of the completeness and the consistency. So again validate the things that has been made, that has been changed. So this all report is maintained by configuration audits and review. So that is the 5 things which has been used under the SCM process. So these are different participants in the CM operational scenario. So project manager, configuration manager, developer, and the user. So these are the participants for the SCM process. So I hope the session is understood. If not, you can comment in comment box. Thank you.